to begin. Keith, don't forget the First of all, welcome home to Vic, and we're really glad to have him back, and Debbie, but we wish Debbie could be here this morning. She's still easing back into normalcy, hopefully. And also, we want to remember Amy Rossi in our prayers. She was in Cleveland Clinic, and nothing is going real smoothly with everything that happened. So I don't know what to tell you as to how long she'll be in there yet. It's day to day. So please keep her in your prayers. Keep Burnett Stewart in your prayers. And many others, as you see from the newsletter. Let's bow together for a word of prayer. Father, thank you for the night's rest, and thank you for this new day and a new week. Thank you so much for our church family. We look into each other's eyes, and we know that we have a deep relationship because of your Son, our Savior. Bless us today as we study together. Through Christ we pray. Several of us were able to go to Tammy Haney's wiener roast last night. Tammy and Jim had a wiener roast, and I think it was mostly relatives, would you say? A lot of their relatives.
Some of Jim's friends from work and some relatives, mostly, yeah. A few of my worst friends.
A lot of relatives that make up the Ravenna Church, that attend the Ravenna Church, so it was good to meet some of them. And later on, they took a hayride. They've got like 25 acres, and it's really a pretty setting back there. And I didn't realize it, but Jim had all the kids loaded up on the wagon, and then they got back close to a 17th century cemetery, and he hit the kill switch. And he told the kids that he had run out of gas. So they had a good time. Tammy has a horse. She's got a bunch of, how many did we say, 10, 8, 12?
Well, altogether, there's probably about 17. But they're
And
not
how
all
many of them are
mine.
actually yours?
No, they're not all mine.
No, I mean, how many are yours?
8.
8. And she's wanting to move a couple, so if anybody has an interest in buying a horse, was trying to persuade Sherry last night, or actually trying to persuade Brian. Anyway, and they got cows and chickens and all that stuff. But what was I going to tell you about the horse? Oh, one of them was huge. It's a Bergeron draft horse, just a giant. We had a little excitement this morning in our house. Mark had slept on the sofa, and I had the TV on trying to see what the weather was going to be like later today. And all of a sudden, dishes started crashing down like crazy. We had 2 shelves, glass shelves of china, that decided they no longer wanted to be in the cabinet. So, nothing, we don't know what triggered it. You know, I've got those stupid little plastic stubs you put into the, so anyway, I came running into the kitchen thinking Jeannie had had a heart attack or something. And plates, china, some of it from relatives way back, all over the kitchen floor. Just broken to smithereens. So that's why I wanted that late this morning. We were trying to, I don't know what happened, just some critical mass, and the top shelf went, and then the second shelf went. Anyway, we got to go home and pick up a bunch more glass slippers. Look at your notes, and you'll notice on the flip side, if you haven't already, there's a diagram of what we're talking about here this morning. And we're using the text of Exodus as our study guide, and naturally we've now been talking a little bit about the tabernacle. And it wasn't just, well, let's do a little quiz here, because some maybe haven't been here all the time. Give us another term that describes the tabernacle. Actually, one day the tabernacle is going to grow up and be more permanent. Permanent is not the word, but more grounded, we should say. And what will it be called then? The temple. The tabernacle connotes, has the connotation of something that's transportable, that will move. You can take down and move and reassemble. So as Israel as a nation, as they're moving throughout their wilderness journey, every time they move, they have to take down the tent, the big tent, and it's a big tent, and everything's got to be done just right. And you can easily get the impression from reading this that God is rather persnickety, in that everything has to be done just the way He wants it. You don't carry something unless He tells you the way to carry it. You don't, even we know from a case where certain things were untouchables. You had to, like the Ark of the Covenant, it had rings on the side, and when it came time to carry it, you couldn't just say to a couple of the Israelite teenage boys, would you guys lift that up, put it on the wagon? Everything, the poles had to be put through the rings just right, and then as you're carrying it, you better hope there's no earthquake. Because if it comes falling down, you can't catch it. And that's what happened one time when some were carrying it and somebody faltered. It would be like at a funeral home when everybody, the pallbearers come out carrying the casket and somebody stumbles on a step or something. The natural instinct is to reach out and catch that coffin, to take his place. You don't do that with the Ark of the Covenant. And all of the idea behind that is because this is God. And we're humans. And we can't just touch God in our own. And of course, God's not. We know all of this is representative. And yet it's hard to communicate because God really is there in the Ark of the Covenant. And He dwells above the mercy seat. But He's not flesh like us. And you can't, on the one hand, you can't put God in a box. You can't say, well, that's the only presence. God's everywhere, but He's trying to communicate to people that my presence will be with you. So everything has to be handled just the way He says it. And I've said this for years, and I believe this firmly, and I think we can all see this to a large extent, that we have not had enough really strong teaching about this, or maybe we haven't, and I've just missed it, or I just don't see it. The only explanation for this is that God is holy. And we sing about that all the time. It's part of our hymnody repertoire. So that's not new to any of us to say that God is holy. But we don't quite understand how God's holiness intersects or meets head up with our humanity. And so our humanity has to not only recognize God's holiness, but it's something that calls for obedience and strict adherence to whatever God says, because He's God. And it's not just that He's got the big head. He knows what He's talking about. All right, so the tabernacle is going to be, it's not just a tent to carry a tent. It's functional. It's bringing about forgiveness of sins through certain ones offering up certain sacrifices. And so the ones that are in charge of the temple or tabernacle earlier on, and when I say in charge, I don't mean that in a ruling sense, but the ones who are ministering in the tabernacle are going to be the priest. And that's what these next couple of chapters go into great details about. Again, to some of us, it would seem ridiculous. I mean, I tell you, sometimes I think this would be nice. When you get so fat you can't get in your suits, it would really be nice to just slip on a robe. I don't know what was behind all of this, but sometimes I think you don't have to choose a tie on Sunday morning. It's already chosen for you. All right, now that very conversation is going to, there's two things about this. I want to at least end up with some kind of response to why don't we do this. If all of this is spelled out in the Old Testament in intricate detail, and God is serious about this, and you don't deviate from it, He tells the priest not only what to do, but how to dress. How do we just wipe it all away when it comes to the New Testament? If and in some religions they haven't. If you look at the Catholic Church today, or Eastern Orthodox, or a bunch of other high church groups, they're still practicing basically this. They're not adhering to the actual, all of the specifications of an Old Testament priest, but there's all this, I call it pomp and circumstance, but there's something behind it. This is not just that God's a show-off, and He wants His, we talk about vicarious atonement. A vicar, a priest, is one who goes between. He's a go-between. The people can't approach God because we're too common, we're too sinful. So God chooses priests to be our go-between. And it's not that they're sinless, but as we see in our notes here, they're purified. They're consecrated for the task that's before them. God sets them apart with all kind of ceremony and rituals so that they can be clean to do what He tells them to do. And then they better do it just right. So I want to end with why we don't have this today. Why is there no priesthood in the Church of Christ? And I don't mean that in a denominational sense. I just mean it in the sense that when we read the New Testament, there is a priesthood. I said that wrong, didn't I? But it's not restricted to just a few. Go ahead and tip our hand on this. What is it? It's the priesthood of all believers. So what God was teaching Israel through very specific rules and regulations given to the priest, He was trying to reveal two things. Number one, there's a real problem with your sin. Everything about, excuse me, everything about the details of the tabernacle, all of the furniture, everything about it, everything about this, it can all be explained by stating we have a sin problem. And the only way we can deal with this sin problem is to approach our holy God. But to approach our holy God, it's got to be done in a very God-given way. So God reveals the plan for this tabernacle, and then He reveals a plan where priests can go into the Holy of Holies, make sacrifice for the sins of the people. Anybody have comments or questions before we get a little bit further in? All right, we're going to buzz through this. It's not the kind of reading that you usually think about, although some people are built differently. I like to sit down with a good biography, and some people just don't care for that a bit. They like to read math books, so we're all wired differently. The garment of the priest was basically 7 pieces to it. And you can see from the diagram, there's what we call breeches. I thought that was a southern. That's a King James version 1600 thing. So the breeches, which is basically undergarments, not jockey briefs and stuff like that, but you get the idea there. It's an undercloak. And then the tunic is the actual garment, and then on top of the tunic is this robe. And then there's an ephod, which is basically nothing but a vest. But it's a very special vest. And then there's a girdle, which is a fancy word for saying a belt, or a band, or what does it say on the chart here? A curious girdle. I meant to look that up. I'm curious what a curious girdle is. And then there's a breastplate and the turban. The breastplate is, of course, on the ephod or the vest. And the turban or the mitre is the really fancy hat, which is not on this picture. It's not a hat. Well, I guess it is a hat of sorts, but it's really. So all of these had, again, were part of preparing the high priest to go before the one true living God. I asked a couple questions here. On the breastplate, how many precious stones were there?
12.
Wow. What did they represent?
12 tribes of Israel.
The 12 tribes of Israel. And what was the design or purpose of the bells on the bottom of the robe? Had little bells on it. Why? Anybody know? Keith?
The high priest was before that.
You're going to have to talk about it.
The high priest
There you
did
go.
that, and we went in to sit on most holy place to talk to God, and God didn't like it. The rope was tied, some kind of rope was tied, and the bell was shaped to kind of bring him out.
Yeah, now Keith is, he's kind of parroting what I've told you, and I'm parroting what I've been told by others, and others get this not only from a thus saith the Lord, book, chapter, verse. Well, here, let's develop this just a tiny bit. Look at, where is the verse? Verse 35 in chapter 28. It shall be on Aaron. Aaron was one of the priests. We didn't even talk about this. His sons, Aaron and his sons, and then his descendants will serve as priests. It shall be on Aaron when he ministers, and its tinkling may be heard when he enters and leaves the holy place before the Lord, that he may not die. Well, that's kind of hard. What does it say? Does God like the tinkling of the bells? When we read from Jewish literature, those who wrote commentaries on Old Testament stuff way back, the idea here is that when the high priest went into the Holy of Holies, he's entering the very presence of God. This is the most dangerous thing you could ever do. As Keith said, it's not just that God looked at him and said, I don't like you. Keith didn't say it that way, but he said if God doesn't like him, if he does something that's wrong, if he's not dressed properly, if he's not suitable to approach the Holy God, he could be struck dead. And then so part of the idea here is as long as you hear the bells, when that high priest, when Aaron goes in on the Day of Atonement to make sacrifice for all the people, as long as you hear the little bells jingling around, he's moving, he's okay. But if the bells stop, that means something serious has happened. And God is not happy. And then the question, Chris, becomes, who's going to go in to check out here? Because none of us are allowed in there. So that's where Keith says, and he's, again, parroting what we've said, they would tie a rope around the high priest. And then if, for some reason, the bells stop ringing, nobody has to go in, they just pull him out. Now that's not far-fetched. That's probably based, I can't tell you an example where it's justified in Scripture or where we could say, okay, here's where it actually happened. But we know of other instances where priests did this, what appears to be just something slightly off kilter, and they're in serious trouble with God. Sometimes we have on here, what is strange fire? Can anybody tell me what strange fire is? Do you know what strange fire is? Stephen, you brought this up before just a little bit ago.
I can't tell you exactly what was the compound for it, but apparently what they did was when they made the fire that they're supposed to have going at that time, they mixed something in there that wasn't supposed to be in there.
Just some ingredient or using some kind of fire starter or some element to it that God didn't sanction. Here's an easy way to answer what is strange fire. It's just fire that wasn't authorized. They didn't do it the way God told them to do it. They thought of another way that would be maybe even, they think, more expeditious or more, after you build so many fires, maybe you start thinking, Mark and I have this rivalry all the time. When it comes fireplace time in the winter, Jeannie gets so tired of hearing it, I can build a much better fire than him. No, you listen to him, he can build a better fire than I ever dreamed of. But what Jeannie needs to do is make up the rules and say, if you guys don't follow this, I'm going to smite both of you where you follow it. That would stop the arguing, maybe. So, what was our next question? I'm really getting sidetracked here this morning. What was scripted on the turban, meaning the mitre or the big toe? What was written on there? Verse 36, you'll make a plate of pure gold, and you shall engrave on it like the engravings on a seal, and it will say, Holy to the Lord. Which just kind of emphasizes this whole process. I don't want to take time here to go through all of the consecration process, but again, it's very, let's just answer that or spend a little bit of time on this. First of all, what is the word consecrate? Concentrate, we all know what that means. What does it mean to have something be consecrated? Give me a synonym for consecrate. Dedicated to? Blessed. Too generic, sorry. Okay, don't you like it when somebody defines a word with another word that you have no clue what it means? A great synonym for consecrated is sanctified. Now did that help you a lot? What does sanctified mean? Set apart. That's the best way to translate it. Set apart. So when we use that word consecrated in a marriage ceremony, it means the bride is just for the groom and the groom is just for the bride. They have consecrated their lives one for each other. So to consecrate or to sanctify means that they are set apart. Now that doesn't mean that that's the only thing they ever do or think, but it does mean that they have a very special function there. And in particular, the setting aside means that God has prepared them for this special work. So that's part of all of the ceremony that has to do with the washing have to bathe just right, and you have to put on clothes, and these clothes better be cleaned and pressed just right, and then you've got all of the wardrobe or the accoutrements or whatever that go with it. So all of this, verses 19, and we're in chapter 29 now, things have to be marked with blood, and then there's all kinds of anointings, and even food, special food that is to be part of the diet of the priest that's about to make the sacrifice. So it's really quite detailed. Have any of you ever done what you would call a detailed study of all of this in days gone by? Anybody? It's not the kind of thing we usually study, but it might be worth that sometime in the future. This consecration took place over how long of a time span? What does verse 35 and 37 say of chapter 29? 7 days. So it's a pretty extended preparation time. And then once they're ordained in this ordination service, how long will this, first of all, how often do they go to work? Daily. You'll have to dive in deep to try to figure out, and it's not just the priest who are, it ends up that the tribe of Levi ends up being assistants to the temple preparations and all of that stuff. But this is something that goes on daily. There's not a day that goes by that sacrifices would not need to be made. So I've forgotten now. I wish I could get this in my mind. Mark Lombardi was listening to some archaeologist at the Pepperdine Bible Lectures, and they were talking about the region outside of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and about how the soil had been impacted by all the blood over all of the years that had flowed through the system. Can you imagine that? Just nonstop. Inside the tabernacle, part of the equipment or furniture that the priest will have to do with is the altar and the laver, which is kind of like a wash basin. And then there's anointing oil and incense. And here again, you see a replication of a lot of this in some religions today. You can see this if you go to a Catholic funeral. You'll see the sprinkling of incense and the anointing and all of this stuff. And I can't tell you because I've not studied with any of them in particular, but I don't know that they're trying to necessarily duplicate everything in Old Testament Jewish days to the letter. But much of what they're doing is kind of like a shadow of what's taught in Old Testament times. Anybody have any comments on that? All right, let's go back to the first verse of chapter 28 again and read this where we maybe should have started. Bring near to yourself Aaron, your brother. This is God telling Moses this. Bring near your brother Aaron and his sons with him from among the sons of Israel to minister as priests to me. And these sons of Aaron are Nadab and Abihu, and Eleazar, Ithamar, Aaron's sons. And then it goes on to say, you shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty. We can question what locked God in on Moses and Aaron, and for that matter, is it Moses' sister a prophetess? So there's something in the Moses circumstance that I don't know if we could say it was appealing to God, but there was something there that was at least pliable to God, meaning that God saw in Moses and his relatives ones that could be used to shape and that God could shape and mold to do his bidding, to do his will. Do you have a problem with that? Is this a case of God and nepotism? Why, we don't get the idea that Moses is the pusher of all of this. When God calls Moses to be a spokesman, Moses tries to get out of it, and evidently he has some kind of speech impediment, which is pretty amazing when you think of all that he has to do. But God says, I'll get your brother to help you out. So it's not that God comes, or Moses comes and says, God, I can't talk to my brother, he's really, really good. Would you mind? No, it's God's idea, it's not Moses. Phyllis?
What tribe was Moses from?
I don't know. That's a good question. Why do you care?
Well, I thought it might have something to do with God calling on him.
Well, maybe so. Anybody know what tribe
I
Moses is
believe
from?
it's from the tribe of Levi. But I'll double check that.
That's something that's never tickled my fancy, all of that tribe stuff. In fact, I still have trouble. Can anybody in here name the 12 tribes? One right.
Ham and
Ham?
yeah, I think Ham is one.
No, you're on
I'm on
Sunday.
something else.
Yeah. Anyway,
From the tribe.
that may be a very,
Yeah.
maybe the tribe.
In Exodus 2, it says pretty much it's
So are you saying that,
And he's from the tribe of Levi.
from the tribe of Levi, is what Stephen said. So is that what makes them attractive to God then? I mean, boy, when you read Jacob's predictions about the tribe of Levi, it doesn't sound real optimistic there, but they end up, okay, for whatever reason, God sees these men as suitable instruments to here's a picture of them getting dressed. Let's see if I can find that. Go to Genesis 28, verse 1, and then look at 1 Chronicles 6 and verse 49. 1 Chronicles, can you find that? 1 and 2 Samuel, 1 and 2 Kings, 1 and 2 Chronicles. And verse, what was it, 49? But Aaron and his sons offered on the altar a burnt offering and on the altar of incense for all the work of the most holy place, and to make atonement for Israel according to all that Moses, the servant of God had commanded. And these are the sons of Aaron, Eleazar, Phinehas, others that are mentioned there. So it would be continue to be in that family line. Here's a thought we'll close with this morning. When we read this, let's go back to Exodus now. And I don't want to slight the craftsman. This is pretty impressive too. Chapter 31, God tells Moses there's a couple guys, I'm going to make them really good craftsmen. because this is, talk about detailed work. I'm not sure Linda Applegate would be up to the work for the tabernacle. God would probably look at his work and say, no, you're good, you're awful good, but this is going to take. And it says about these guys that God granted them wisdom and knowledge and understanding and craftsmanship. And then they evidently were able to reinforce the skills of those who were understudies with them or who were working with them. And even in the midst of it all, they were told to remember the Sabbath. The ton of work that had to be done to get all of this ready. But what I wanted to do here was to go back to the broader question. This sounds like this is Moses telling the people how to do things. But look the way, where is it in here? Look at chapter 31 and verse 18. And when he had finished speaking with him upon Mount Sinai, you see what that little statement is doing? All of the details that we've been reading about here, about the tabernacle, about the garments of the priests and all that, this is God telling Moses, this is what I want you to tell the people. And I just get in my mind, does Moses just go, he goes down with 2 tables of stone. The 10 Commandments, I would have thought, I got that, you don't need to write that down, but all that other stuff, would you write it down for me? Because it's pretty detailed. Somehow, some way, God either triggered Moses' memory or Moses had some kind of writing notes for, can you imagine all the detail here? And does this change your concept of Moses on the Mount? For all, talk about a crash course in, anybody comment or question there? It's just, to me, as a student, it's an amazing thought that Moses goes up on the mountain and for 40 days he's writing his hand. He can't keep up. Well, he evidently does. I'm being a little bit facetious, but you wonder when he came up on the mountain if his hand was just, or how it was done.
Just think of the responsibility of that, because he had to get every one of them details exactly right and in the exact order.
Yeah, it's pretty important for the final exams that are coming up for everybody involved. But maybe that's just the way inspiration worked as well. That God just brought to his memory all that was said, just like God working with Peter, Paul, James, and John to remember all that Jesus had said. Anybody last comments? Okay, we'll talk about the golden